Good to see you. First time, His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Osei Tutu II has visited here, a home of the nation, Bank of Ghana, otherwise known here at the Bank Square. If I may kindly ask you to give this opportunity a round of applause. My name is Anita Erskine, and it is an absolute honor to be standing here this morning at the beginning of the year 2026 to start the year on such a positive note. The Venerable Governor of the Bank of Ghana, here seated, ladies and gentlemen, has added his voice to the warm welcome of His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Osei Tutu II as a blessing of this powerful edifice. And at this point, as we celebrate him, I would also like to hand over the floor to you, Dr. Isiama, to give us the official welcome remarks.
Thank you very much. Your Majesty Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, Asantehene, Nanayima and Nananum, honored elders and members of your delegation, distinguished members of our board, management and staff of the Bank of Ghana, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor on behalf of the board of the bank, and also on behalf of management and staff of the Bank of Ghana to warmly welcome Your Majesty to the Central Bank. Otumfuo, Ghana has long benefited from your brand of leadership. Your quiet, steady, and deeply anchored in wisdom. In moments of national tension, you have reminded us that authority is not exercised through noise or fuss, but through balance, through restraint, and moral clarity. That instinct for stability has made your voice relevant, not only in matters of chieftaincy and social cohesion, but also in the broader national conversation about development, discipline, and progress. Now, I recall very clearly the last time the board and management, including myself and the other two governors of the Bank of Ghana, we paid homage to Your Majesty at Mencha. On that occasion, you asked us a question. That question was so simple and profound. Now you observed that the cedi was appreciated at the time against the US dollar. And then you asked whether that appreciation was sustainable. Now it was a legitimate question for us, one that went beyond the exchange rate itself to the deeper issue of credibility. It was a question that many Ghanaians were asking quietly at the time, in their homes, in their shops, and in their offices. And we heard it all. They asked us, is this improvement real? Will it last? Now I am pleased to say that since then, since our visit to you, the underlying foundations of the economy have strengthened in important ways. Permit me to say just a few. Inflation, which is the first one, it stood at 23.8% in December 2024. Inflation has fallen sharply since then. By October this year, it got to as low as 8%, and by November, it got to 6.3%. This morning, we woke up to the news that for December, that is the end of last year, inflation got down to 5.4%. Now, I must say that this trend reflected the broad-based disinflation process across both food and non-food items. Certainly, these have not happened by accident. It is the result of sustained monetary discipline that we brought on board, the improved food supply conditions that existed throughout 2025, and our prayer is that this continues. And of course, the closer coordination across key policy institutions. That is the Bank of Ghana and also the Ministry of Finance. We are like cousins, and we have to relate with each other all the time. Now, as inflation pressures eased and expectations began to re-anchor, the Bank of Ghana was able to recalibrate its policy stance carefully. The monetary policy rate was reduced in steps since we came in from 27% to 18% as at our last meeting in November last year. Striking a balance between preserving hard-won disinflation gains and supporting a recovery in credit and economic activity. Now, market rates have followed this trend, easing financial conditions while maintaining prudence. And Nana, I have said on many occasions that my prayer and my wish is that by the end of my tenure, my 4-year tenure, the blended rates will not be more than 10% in this country. Nana, on the external front, buffers have also been rebuilt. Our gross international reserves, which is the variable we use to assess our resilience as a country. Our international reserves have risen to above $13.8 billion, and this is historic. Nana, I joined the bank since 1995, and I've never seen such figures since then. So this is historic. And in terms of imports cover, we normally use the imports cover to also express the international reserves level. We are looking at close to 6 months of imports cover. It's never happened in the history of the country. Our trade performance has improved and confidence in macroeconomic management has strengthened. And against this backdrop, Your Majesty, the question that you asked us in Malaysia about the cedi deserves a clear answer. Now we are happy to report that the cedi ended the year in a much stronger position also than many would have anticipated a year ago. According to Forbes, a year-end level of about 10.67 per US dollar placed the cedi among the stronger performing currencies on the African continent. This outcome reflects not only improved sentiment, but also better fundamentals, also stronger reserves, reduced inflation, and restored policy credibility. However, we remain careful in all these, not to confuse improvement with performance, with permanence. Exchange rate stability is not something that can be declared. It must be earned and earned continuously. A currency remains strong, only when the real economy beneath it is productive. Only when the economy beneath it is competitive. And only when the economy beneath it is disciplined. And that is why we see the cedi's performance not as a victory lap, but as a responsibility. Sustainability, as Your Majesty rightly implied in your question, rests on deeper choices. And let me name a few: fiscal restraint instead of excess, production over consumption, exports over imports, and long-term thinking over short-term comfort. Now, these are not technical matters alone. They are matters of national values and conduct. And in this respect, Otumfuo, your public counsel over the years has been remarkably consistent. Now, you have repeatedly urged leaders to reduce waste. You have urged leaders to protect the public resources. And you have urged leaders to focus on development that creates real opportunity for ordinary Ghanaians. Nana, you have spoken about the need to empower Ghanaian enterprise, to support education, and to build an economy that produces, not merely an economy that trades. Nana, these messages align closely with what economic history teaches us, and that is that prosperity follows discipline, and stability follows credibility. Now, your visit today is therefore not merely symbolic to us at the Bank of Ghana. It is very, very timely. Ghana's recovery, as we've seen so far, must now move beyond better statistics to better livelihoods for Ghanaians. It must translate into jobs for the youth, stronger local industry, affordable credits for enterprises, and that does not reignite inflation, and a financial system that supports enterprise and long-term investment. Now, the Bank of Ghana is fully committed to playing its role firmly, independently, and professionally, so that the gains we are beginning to see will become durable and inclusive. Nana, we are grateful for your presence, your counsel, and your lifelong commitment to peace, unity, and national progress. Nana, your leadership reminds us that stability, whether social or economic, is built patiently, protected deliberately, and sustained through collective responsibility. Akwaba, Otumfuo, Idase.
Now share his words. Ladies and gentlemen, please be outstanding and acknowledge his presence.
The people who are responsible for keeping us safe.
John.
Today, it is our honor to be in the citadel of the great institution whose mandate ultimately determines whether we have shelter over our heads, food on the table, and are able to provide for the education of our children and healthcare for our families.
John.
That, in short, summarizes the remit of the Bank of Ghana. And we are grateful to our respected governor, my son here, who, when he became the second deputy governor, I held his hands, and he's now the governor here sitting in this chair.
John.
And his deputies and the management for the kind invitation for us to be here today.
John.
Hardly do I come to Accra, so I've been spoken to about Bank of Ghana building, but then I've not even entered or seen the edifice till today. So I thank you very much for honoring me with this invitation.
John.
We are honored to be received by the entire team, including the Monetary Policy Committee, and particularly grateful for the opportunity to inspect your sparkling, bright new edifice. As my daughter, Ms. Askin, said, that it is such an edifice that you can't miss. And I realized that from the open air when I was walking there, I think when you walk in here, your brains will be there like that to work properly.
Jump. Jump.
It is truly a magnificent edifice, truly fully benefiting the authority and power of the institution and the spirit and energy of the nation. It is without doubt a monument to our generation which will endure through time, and I mince no words in applauding the bank for the courageous commitment to deliver.
Jump.
I hope, Governor, that it inspires your staff to raise their performance to a level befitting the new environment.
Jump.
Of course, I do not forget, Governor and the deputies and your team, that this is the Bank of Ghana. You see, I've come to the view that when the scientists tell us that the higher you go, the cooler it becomes, they do not include institutions like the Bank of Ghana. Because in my experience dealing with all the governors of the bank during our reign, it's been evident that in this hallowed environment, the heat that encases you at the top is such that not even the combined energies of all the manpower, the brain power at your disposal, can generate sufficient power to cool them down.
Jump.
It is not nearly as comfortable as all the trappings may suggest. And yet, it is a job that must be done, and done well.
Jump.
And we are always enthralled by the incredible dedication we see here. The level of expertise within these walls is second to none, and I can confidently declare my trust in the capacity of the able young brains I see today to help the bank fulfill its mandate.
Jump.
Of course, we have always been there to help them, to help bring temperature down when the heat threatens to overpower everyone.
Jump.
We have been on hand to help open doors, but at home, both at home and abroad. So we have come to our beautiful home to see and thank the brainpower managing our beloved city, to encourage you to continue in your dedicated service and to reassure you that whenever you feel the need for a shoulder to cry on, the doors are open.
Jump.
In accordance with our tradition, the language the traditional ruler speaks must be perfectly understandable to the ordinary church or passenger. So when we speak of the mandate of the bank and the work you do, we do so without any pretentious jargons and simple layman's language, so that anyone from the ordinary person to the university don can understand.
Jump.
I have summarized the mandate of the bank as that which will ultimately determine whether we have a roof over our heads, food on the table, clothes to wear, and the ability to provide for our education and healthcare.
Jump.
That is no exaggeration. You are responsible for the national currency, and you are also responsible for fixing the interests that determine the rate at which we can borrow money.
Jump.
It is a fact of history that when the currency is healthy, the economy bristles with opportunities. The people are able to use the opportunities to create business. Their business allows the people to create jobs and ultimately walk in wealth. When the city wobbles, even the tsunami can be less destructive.
Jump.
Over the past year, after a difficult period, we have begun to breathe easy as the city stabilizes on the foreign exchange market.
Jump.
We recognize these are only the early stools of progress, and one will do well to be careful not to start feasting, as the governor said, before the true state of the harvest is known.
Jump.
Nonetheless, we think it is appropriate to acknowledge the discernible shift in direction and to encourage you to take any measure that will keep us on the right trajectory. So I'm here to encourage you.
Jump.
We have come not to preach to the experts, because you are the experts. We are just a layman living in Malaysia, not knowing anything to do, but we have to fall on you.
Jump.
And I said to the governor and his two deputies that once I'm here with 2-3 people who have the money, this year I'll be rich.
Jump.
come not to preach to the experts, but to listen, and I thank the governor for the arrangements for a private session where we can exchange views on issues that must necessarily be heard behind closed doors.
John.
I hope the unavoidable attention being paid to the city does not mean we are relegating the second mandate of the bank, which has to do with interest rates, to the back burner. I noticed that interest rates too have begun coming down, but from past experience, we are going to find ways of accelerating the pace.
John.
Let me be as blunt as I can. No amount of investment by government on its own can scratch the surface of what we need to give ourselves a sound economy.
John.
Nor can we expect in this era of international discord to rely on foreign investments of any significance. This moment calls for a massive push to stimulate domestic private investment in industry. That cannot happen with interest at their current cutthroat rate and level. The challenge I leave with your creative brains is to fashion how you move the economy from the crippling high interest regime to the level where it becomes a stimulant of business and wealth creation.
John.
The second issue I wish to touch on is the bank of the public in the public sphere. This is a unique institution with a mandate that ultimately affects every citizen of the land. Ideally, this citadel should be a fortress, insulated from the strings and arrows of political warfare. Whatever it is, we should think twice before we do anything which has the capacity to cast a stain on the integrity of the bank.
John.
I will appeal to the nation, to both sides of the political divide, to give the governor, my son, and his team a chance. Give them the respect and the space to perform their professional duties. Support them along the right path and offer counsel as necessary for the good of the bank.
John.
This is our bank. We have entrusted to them. It is our lives we have placed in their hands. If they fail, we risk collapse.
John.
If they succeed, we walk in wealth and glory. Thank you, my son, Governor.
John.
Thank you, the deputies and the management board. Thank you also for the MPC and the executive.
John.
Thank you, management and staff. May we be showered with the blessings of peace, prosperity, wealth, and happiness to the glory of God and Mother Ghana. Thank you very much.
John.
Your Royal. Humbly ask the Ghana Armed Forces Band to provide us with an interlude as our special